Another nail in the coffin for US dollar dominance. Hey everybody, you're watching Bull, Boom, Bear, Bust, back with another dose of economic reality. A couple people, more than a couple actually, sent me this article a while back, and I had time to digest it and did some wider research on this. And I want to give you my conclusion. First, tell you what's happening with it, and then give you my conclusion on this. And you can see this headline. This was out of Business Insider, Markets Insider. Russia and China are brewing up a challenge to dollar dominance by creating a new reserve currency. Now remember how often we've talked here about how long it's been since the US dollar has been the reserve currency. Now the US dollar has been the world reserve currency since 1944. But actually in 1971, the dollar became completely detached from gold, which means since that point we've been able to create endless amounts of money because it's no longer tied to the amount of gold we have in reserves. It's basically unlimited now, so anything goes. And we did see inflation really start to skyrocket just after that happened, and we're continuing to feel the repercussions of that coming off the gold standard even today with the inflation. Of course, there's many other factors now, especially recently in the past few years, that have added on to the pile of things causing inflation, including supply chain disruptions, the health crisis, on and on. But coming off of the dollar was definitely, the gold being detached from the dollar rather, was definitely a major event. And just look back since 2005 as far as the total composition of the U.S. currency of foreign exchange reserves. And we see in 2019 it dropped under 60%, but in 2005 it was 66%, and it's been declining ever since. Now we're just under 59%. And I've always said here that the US dollar being dethroned wouldn't happen overnight, that it's going to be a slow, methodical decline, but this could be another nail in the coffin. So let's talk about what's happening between Russia, China, and actually the 5 BRICS nations. Now BRICS, the acronym BRICS, is an acronym that was coined to match the 5 major emerging economies, and that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now at first you may say, well, that's only 5 countries, big deal. Well, together these countries make up over 41% of the world population. So if this currency move is to evolve, that's going to be another, again, a major nail in the coffin for US dollar reserve currency status. Russia and China are developing a new reserve currency with other BRICS countries, and even Putin came out and talked about that. The basket currency would rival a US dollar denominated IMF alternative, and IMF is the International Monetary Fund, and it would let Russia widen its influence. Now even up until this point, the US dollar's dominance has already been eroding, as we saw in that previous chart, as central banks diversify into the Chinese yuan and smaller currencies. But there has never been a country like the United States that has abused the reserve status like the United States has. And what it boils down to is the amount of debt that has been created and the amount of spending. Now, all you have to do is read the highlights of any of these spending packages that are passed to see one after another of just absurd spending and what we call wasteful and useless spending. Now, according to the IMF, central banks are looking to diversify their holdings into currencies like the yuan, as well as into non-traditional areas like the Swedish krona and the South Korean won, according to the IMF. Now currently we have the SDR, which stands for Special Drawing Rights, and that's based on a basket of currencies made up of the US dollar, the euro, the British pound, the Japanese yen, as well as China's yuan. Now one possibility is that this new BRICS basket of currencies could attract the reserves of not just these 5 countries, but also countries already in their range of influence, and that would be other trading partners. These include nations such as South Asia, or within South Asia, and in the Middle East. Now, over the past year, we've actually seen the dollar strengthen against other currencies. And we've always said here that the dollar could be last to fall. And we're starting to see all over the world now countries going into economic collapse, massive inflation, including many countries in hyperinflation. We are seeing the fallout in people protesting in many countries with the outrageous cost of living. And this could still take a long while to play out. For example, if we see falling prices here in the US, if we see deflation in any of the major areas, including housing and even automobile prices, then the dollar will get even stronger. But back to the countries that are seeing inflation, when their own currency is being hyperinflated and devalued, countries and individuals in these countries tend to run to the US dollar in those situations. So yes, you will see some strength in the US dollar, but if this BRICS countries move were to be engaged and other countries jump on board because of the growing distrust now in the US and the US dollar, then you could start to see big moves to the downside for the dollar. And once that happens, kiss any hope or prayers of deflation, kiss those goodbye. All right, so that's my take on it. Please let me know what you think down in comments. Will this be a major move against the US dollar, and will this have implications for the US dollar dominance? And also, will this increase the distrust in fiat currencies altogether and see more moves towards gold and precious metals? We already see that in Russia, gold is being re-implemented in trade. And also in Zimbabwe, we recently reported how gold coins were being re-implemented within the monetary system there as well. And that's why I continue to say keep stacking, because the end game doesn't look good for paper money as a whole. And that at some point, real items, real commodities, real tangible items that you could hold are going to be the go-to once all confidence is lost in this funny money system. Thanks everybody for watching this report. Please make sure that you like and comment on this video. I'd like to know your thoughts on it, especially my precious metals traders. I know it's been rough watching the price go down, but this is not a sprint, it's a long-term game. And things are very controlled, and we're not going to see, that's why I continue to say we're not going to see any sort of collapse or 90% drop overnight like many people have predicted for years, unless you see some sort of unexpected blackout event where the entire grid goes down, being the power grid or the monetary system, war, nukes flying, things like that. Without something like that happening, I continue to think it's going to be very slow decline, but that's a good thing. That gives us more time to prepare and be ahead of the curve on this. All right, everybody, thanks again for watching. Be well, stay safe, keep stacking. Bye for now, and peace.